Happy Chanukah. Welcome. And Chanukah, the Festival of Lights, is a tremendous holiday. But the word light is on one hand a very innocuous and simple word, but it is fraught with layers and layers of meaning. And it's fascinating that on Chanukah, which goes back over 2,000 years, we've been celebrating light. Just recently, in the last few hundred years, and maybe last 100 years with Einstein's breakthroughs, have we discovered the power of light, the properties of light, and how it defines existence itself. I wouldn't be able to be speaking to you right now. We would not have all the technologies in the world were not for the understanding of the properties and nature of light. First Planck and then Einstein showed that light is energy. They called it photons, or quanta. The name quantum actually came from the use of how to analyze the properties of light. That's in science and physics. But the interesting bedfellow of science is religion. In Judaism, in the Bible, in the Torah. Not just Judaism, but all those that follow the Bible. What is the second verse of the Torah? In the beginning, God created heaven and earth. And in the beginning, it was dark. The earth was shrouded in darkness. Vayomer Elokim, and God said, Vayhi ar, let there be light. So light goes back to the earliest literature in religious thought. What I want to talk about this Chanukah is the personal application of all of this in our lives. If light is such a fundamental force in existence, is it also a fundamental force in our existence? It's not just in outer space, not just in the cosmos, but also within our souls and within our psyches. I remember a number of years ago reading, there were two books that came out. I think one was called The Quantum Brain and the other one was called The Quantum Mind. And there the authors were attempting to draw parallels between quantum mechanics on a cosmic level and how it reflects in the mind, the unconscious, has also a quantum-like state. But if you go especially into mysticism, Kabbalah and Chassidus, there's tremendous amount of discussion on the nature of light. Previous years, we actually did the physics of Chanukah. We did Chanukah light as an L-I-T-E, L-I-G-H-T. Discussions of the parallels of physics, the different perspectives whether light is particle or wave, and how that's reflected in Chanukah, in the light according to the mystics. So I'm not going to address that. What I would like to address is its nature in our own beings. But it's important to understand light in the context of these other sources. Because at the end of the day, the greatest challenge for all of us is this. We were born into this world with a very natural light. Look at a newborn child and you'll see a natural light emerges from them. And then, for some reason, it's not just for some reason, it's due to the pressures, the experiences of life in the home or in school or peer pressure and so on, where we begin to develop a new attitude, where our light begins to be compromised, to be constricted. To the point where at some point our light may completely seem extinguished, seem to go out. People tell me, I often hear from people, they say, where has my light gone? I was once such an exuberant, I had such energy, I had such dreams, I had such light. People told me my face used to glow. It doesn't glow anymore. I don't have much to look forward to. I try to get by. So this is what we want to talk about. Because what other more important message of Chanukah is that? Yes, it's true. Chanukah is a beautiful holiday. It's a warm holiday. You light flames. Come on, candles. You get together with family. Of course, we eat latkes for those of us that do that. It's another reason to celebrate. Or maybe not. Latkes safganiyot, what we call jelly donuts. Now we're told the story of Chanukah is what? That 2,300 years ago, during the time of the Second Temple, as the Talmud says, my Chanukah, what is Chanukah? Talmud says it very bluntly. What is Chanukah? So it says, in the time of the Second Temple, there was the Greco-Syrians, I should say, were then in control of Jerusalem. And they had problems with the Jewish people. They didn't want to kill Jews. This wasn't Haman and Persia or Nazis. They did not like the Jewish connection to God, to spirit. Morality, fine. Scholarship, literature, philosophy, poetry. But the divine element is what they wanted to extinguish. And that was a big battle, what they called the Hellenists of the time and the Jews. And Chanukah, they came and they defiled the Holy Temple. And now in the temple, it was supposed to be lit, the menorah was lit every day with pure olive oil. This pure olive oil was sealed in a crucible, in a flask. And this was the fire, so they couldn't light the menorah. And the miracle was a double miracle. They found one crucible that was untouched, of pure oil, that was sealed with the seal of the high priest, which demonstrated its purity, its contaminated state. And two, even though it was only a little oil, it burned for 8 days, until they were able to procure new oil and then use it from there on. There's long discussions in halachic sources with Yosef and brings many opinions exactly what the miracle was. If it was only to burn 8 days, why did it? How did it burn each day? Was it only an eighth of the oil? There's all kinds of opinions. This is not the place to go into. But the story essentially is the discovery of the oil, and number two, the burning for 8 days. 8 days was the time they needed to get back, but 8 days became the 8 days of Chanukah. Now, all this is beautiful story and history, important to commemorate. It's part of our history. But this became a holiday. There are many events that happened to the Jewish people that did not become holidays. We celebrate this holiday. Chanukah is now a mainstay, a part of Chanukah and Purim, of the two holidays, decreed by not Torah-sanctioned, meaning not given to the written Torah, which is only the holidays of Passover, the 3 Regalim, Passover, Shavuos, and Sukkot. Of course, Yom Kippur, and some of the other holidays mentioned in the Torah. These two came later. The question is, why is this so significant? It's important at the time. But it wasn't. You could say Purim was literally, the Jewish people were at the brink of the abyss, literally going to be annihilated. Worse than the Nazis, all Jews. And they were saved. Here, what is the significance of Chanukah? Obviously, we can learn many lessons in it, but there has to be something about it that is vital, indispensable, that Chanukah teaches us that other holidays do not. And when it says, my Chanukah, the Talmud asks, my Chanukah, what is Chanukah? Yes, what is Chanukah? We know now the technical aspect. What is the personal aspect? What is Chanukah to you and to me? Why should my children want to stay around for the menorah, besides for the reason getting gifts and having nice parties or dinner? Why should they want to celebrate Chanukah on a personal level? That's the my Chanukah that we're going to address. What is Chanukah? And the story, and the answer has to be in the story. You can't come with some left field response that's not. The Talmud asked the question, and the answer is what? That they found pure oil, and that it burned for 8 days. What is the significance of that? And of course, brings us to the question, why pure oil? What's so important about pure oil? Why is that so vital? You know, lighting the menorah, you don't have pure oil, so it may not be pure oil. If you have pure oil, great. Why does the Torah emphasize Shemen Zayis Zoch? Be pure olive oil. Zoch. It's a very interesting word in Hebrew. Zoch means refined. Zach. Refined oil. Pure olive oil. Why is that so significant? Light burns. You see a menorah burning, you know what kind of oil is lit. Yes, if it's really the very, what's the word for it? Very filled with sediment oil, you'll see it. It'll crackle, it won't burn properly, and so on. But besides that, can you tell how pure it is? Can you tell if it was touched by the Greco-Syrians or not? The main thing is that it's burning light. Who cares how it's lit? And what kind of properties the oil is like? And that becomes a whole miracle. They have to wait 8 days. You know what? Lighting the menorah is a mitzvah. You can't find regular oil. You can't find pure oil. Use regular oil. Why isn't that significant? And then, of course, as I said, the burning of it. And the answer, my friends, I think all of us can easily apply. Just ask the question in your personal life. What is the most important question? What is the most important lesson in life? How do we access our own inner purity, our own innocence? As I mentioned, as life wears us down and drains us, what happens? Our pure olive oil, that innocence. And you just have to go to that child within, the inner child, and say, what happened to that inner child? That inner child, it's the light that comes out of it is already an expression. But what feeds the beauty of a child? You know, you can train a child to go through the motions and jump through hoops and make all kinds of tricks. But there's something of a child, a naturalness that's very pure. You see a child, a newborn child, like freshly fallen snow, like pure olive oil. And that purity is also in its spirit. The child is eager, absorbs everything, accepts everything for what it is, does not yet know of a world of duplicity, does not yet know of the world of corruption, does not know what a lie means, to say one thing and mean another. It's pure. It's the purest thing on earth. The olive oil, the pure olive oil, is the purity of each in us, each one of us. The shamash and the santabi, tahora he. Tahora. The soul that was given to me, we say in the morning prayers, is pure. Tahora, pure, clean, refined. It's another word. There's tahor, there's zach, different meanings, but the general gist is the same. That is you and I, the real you. Why is it important to have pure olive oil? So let's share it with a story. When the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe, Chabad Rebbe, Rabbi Yosef Yitzchak Schneerson, the sixth Chabad Rebbe, came to the United States. It was 1940. 1940 was the middle of World War II, where our nation was being decimated on the physical front in Europe, and the United States decimated on a spiritual front. It was known when people came from the pogroms running from Eastern Europe in the early 20th century, you come off the boat, so America is different. We don't follow the world, the old world. It's a new world. The world that the pilgrims came to. Thanksgiving. And it was known that thousands upon thousands of Jews who grew up in observant and beautiful, educated homes simply dropped it all. And there was all kinds of pressures and all different types of stuff without getting into it right now. 1940 comes the previous Rebbe, who comes from the old world and declares, America is not different. The spiritual values and the integrity that we had, we will replant over here. Transplant and replant. People thought he was not realistic. That's what people thought. He's not realistic. It's mad. And they challenged it. One of the things he insisted on, because his standards were so pure, because when you're fighting a war, especially a war for hearts and souls, that's where you see how purity is important. So one of the things he wanted was two things that he said in the education system should be changed. Number one, that the Hebrew education should be the beginning of the day, not later in the afternoon. And secular education should come afterwards to teach a child the priority. And the first thing you study is what God wants. And then you study about how the tool chest of how to make money or how to create efficiency and so on. Second thing he wanted was that the teachers who taught the children Judaism should themselves be observant. They teach about Shabbos. They should keep Shabbos at least publicly. One of the people who worked in the education system said, Rebbe, when there's a fire burning, you don't care what kind of water you use to extinguish the fire. Dirty water, clean water. At least the fire is extinguished. So it's true these teachers are not perfect, but that's what we have. They're knowledgeable. And since they're knowledgeable, let's just use them. Use them for the best, for what we can use them for. The Rebbe responded, you're correct if it was water, but what about if you're pouring fuel instead of water on the flames? Not only don't you extinguish it, you make it far worse. The explanation is obvious. When you teach a child, you're not just teaching the words you teach. You also teach them by example. You are what you teach. They say you are what you eat. You assume what you consume. You are what you teach. Because a child doesn't just learn what you read or what you're saying, but also how you behave. A child is innocent. A child absorbs and says, oh, here's what it says and here's what we do. They're not necessarily consistent. That duplicity, that duality is an adult creation, an adult fabrication. So the mere fact that this teacher is teaching about Shabbat or other things and does not follow it, we're not judging him right now. But what is the impression for the child? That's what you do. So this is kerosene, this is oil, this is fuel, not water. It's not dirty water, as in a person is not his teaching skills are not that good. He doesn't communicate that well. We're talking here a fundamental issue that this adds the fire. This will make the fire of ignorance far worse. And in some ways, it'd be better not to teach him anything than to teach him and behave in a contrary way. Teaching a child, do not steal, and then the teacher publicly, and the child sees the teacher steal. Now, of course, you can start explaining nobody is perfect, and don't look at me to do what I say, not what I do. Yes, but little children, especially little children, don't have this way of distinguishing. They learn everything. That was what he said to him. What you learn from this is a tremendous lesson in psychology, tremendous lesson in children, tremendous lesson about being honest. We all have flaws, but the key thing is don't make a philosophy out of your flaws. That's a critical component. Because once you do, then now you're contending with a whole philosophy. It's no longer just a flaw. It's a philosophy that we have to deal with. What the Rebbe was saying was you're dealing with a pure, fertile mind. A mind of pure olive oil. That's what you need to give the child, purity. That's what the child will learn. You know, they tell the story about this professor became brilliant, didn't have time for his students. So he's had a great idea. He'll record his class at his convenience. He'll give an assistant to bring this recording to the class. The students were expected to listen to this recording playing from the desk. No teacher, the recording. And then they were responsible for the material. Okay, great idea. Nice idea. Innovative. You should have patented it. Well, here's what happened. A few months pass, a few weeks pass. He decides, one day he's in the school, he decides to drop in to see how his great idea is working. So he tentatively, very cautiously sneaks up to the door, opens up the door. And to his surprise, there's nobody in the room. However, his tape recorder is playing. He hears his voice. However, on all the desks, there are tape recorders, or today would be iPads, that are recording his recording. They learn from him. He really taught them by example. That's what they did. They also got too busy to come to class. Why do they need to come? They can put their recording. They'll take it and listen to it at their convenience. My machine will talk to your machine. It's also a lesson in education. I've shared this many times, the contrast between Maimonides and Bertrand Russell. Usually don't hear them in the same breath. But, hey. So Bertrand Russell was once asked, how could you behave unethically? You're a professor of ethics, morality. You behaved immorally. He says, I also teach mathematics, and I'm not a triangle. You can teach something and not be it. As a matter of fact, scientists pride themselves in this detachment. I can be a brilliant scientist and I don't have to follow it. I'm detached. I'm objective, so to speak. Maimonides writes in Hilchos Deis, the laws of human behavior, ethical laws. In his classic magnum opus, Mishnah Torah, he writes, Ezu Chacham, you want to know who was a wise person? So he doesn't say this, but by what he does say, you can extrapolate not someone, if you want to know who's wise, not his oratory skills, his scholarship, his brilliant presentations, his arguments, his ability to refute other counter arguments. No. He's a chacham. You want to know who's a chacham? But my chole is nikar. You can recognize him in his how he eats, how he drinks, how he sleeps, how he walks, how he talks, the minor things. You are what you teach. This doesn't mean anyone's perfect, but it means that's the standard. To make a statement, I'm not a triangle, I teach ethics, I'm not ethical, is somewhat cynical, and also meaning there's a detachment. Obviously we all make mistakes, but is it a philosophy? Is it a way of life? Everyone does it, so to speak. This is the pure olive oil. Pure olive oil is no compromise. The standard. Now let me ask a question. Someone will say, 1 second, but we're flawed. We should know that we're flawed. Why not teach the children? Hey, I'm flawed, you're flawed. Do you say the same thing when you teach music and art and philosophy? Let me teach you a flawed version. No. You teach students the best art that could be made, the best music that could be created. You teach them what's the highest one can reach, and then you say, now we try to reach there. But you always, in mathematics especially, the perfect science they call it. Far from perfect, but as perfect as it gets. As Churchill said about democracy, it's the worst system around, but he's never found a better one. Mathematics is better than that. It's eloquence, it's poetry. But Gödel has already demonstrated that mathematics is also not the absolute perfect science, because it also is built on axioms that are not necessarily provable, logical. So mathematics, we pride ourselves in the perfect circle, in the infinite set of numbers. Everything is precise. Can we live up to that perfection in our personal lives? Obviously not. But you don't compromise and say, you know what? Since we're flawed, we're human beings, let's teach a flawed mathematics. Flawed mathematics. No, every cent has to be accounted for. In accounting, every millimeter has to be accounted for. Every angle, every perimeter, everything. So the same thing is when we're talking about the human being, soul. How much more so? A soul is a precious, divine entity. Pure. It comes to this earth pure, unsoiled. There's no child that's born cynical. There's no child that's born jaded. There's no child that's born corrupt. There's no such thing. Now, of course, a mother, God forbid, is taking the wrong type of foreign substances. It can affect the child. But that's an adult influence. A child, children not, sometimes God chooses that children are not born the way we'd like. They're born with defects or handicaps or whatever we call them, special children. I'm not discussing that. They're also pure. As a matter of fact, many say that they're even purer because they never get jaded even later in life. But regardless, a child is born pure. What right do we have to defile this child's mind and heart and soul? That's how a parent should think. I don't mean that in a threatening way. I mean in a beautiful way. You're walking on uncharted territory. You're walking on freshly fallen snow. You have a child in your hand that is impressionable, precious, divine. This is Chanukah. The respect for the purity of something. Yes, purity. And that is vital. It's not an option. That's why the menorah was the shemen zayizach, pure olive oil, because purity is critical. There's a custom in some places that children, they start learning Chumash, you start not from Bereshis, but from Vayikra. Not from Genesis, but from Leviticus. The question is why? Leviticus is very complicated laws. The Talmud says it's like the lion of the Torah, full of complicated laws. The other parts of the Torah are mostly narrative. Easy. They're full of depth. But there's the story of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the story of Garden of Eden, the story of Exodus of Egypt, the travels through the wilderness. Vayikra the entire book was almost stated at a certain period in time after the temple was established, and now with the laws, and the laws are very complicated. Why do you begin teaching a child from Vayikra? Just the beginning. Says the Medrash, Yovei Tahirim Yashku B'Tahirim. The pure shall come, and they shall immerse themselves in purity, because the book of Leviticus is about purity, about tahara. How one achieves purity, how one retains being pure, how one reconnects to purity when they become impure. the laws of the priests, the high priest, the priests, when they went into the Holy of Holies, when they went into the temple. This is the book of Leviticus. So what we have here is a book of purity. Pure things belong in purity. It's a beautiful concept. Now, if Beresh is not pure, is Shemos, Exodus, and Genesis not pure, of course it's Torah. God's Torah. Torah HaKadosh, holy Torah. But what does it talk about in Beresh? Beresh talks about the creation of the world. I mentioned before that the world was shrouded in darkness. Darkness hovered and filled expansive existence. And then God says, let there be light. Beautiful world. Then the story of Garden of Eden. Beautiful garden, but then it was defiled. Not that it's not important to know. As a matter of fact, the Torah begins with that because we need to know about the existence of the world, and the child will grow up and learn that the point of being pure is to bring purity in an impure world. But let the child be pure before it's pure. That's why children are not born and thrust into the world. The first step is they grow up in a nurtured environment, protected, surrounded. First 9 months in the womb doesn't get purer than that. No influences from the outside altogether. Then the early years nurtured at home. Slowly are they weaned and get accustomed to take on the world. Unfortunately, we throw them into the world, the impure world, too quickly. Retain that purity as much as possible. Hevel she'ein bo chet. It's called a breath that has no sin. That's how a child is described. It says in the Talmud, what is greater than building the temple itself? Nothing. Everybody has to come participate in the temple except one group, children. Why? And the Talmud uses an expression, Al tigui b'mashiachai. Do not touch my Mashiach, God says. My anointed one. Anointed. What do you anoint with? Olive oil. Oil. There's different types of anointment. There's a pach. But there's also anointment with a pach, which is with a crucible with a flask of oil. My Mashiach, my anointed ones, my pure ones. Because they're studying and remaining in their study of Torah, not building the Beis HaMikdash is greater than the Beis HaMikdash. You have to say that. The Talmud doesn't say it directly, but the fact that they don't have to, and they should not be disturbed from their pure activity means what they're doing is the Beis HaMikdash. Or else they would have to be taken away from that to do something greater. Because it's pure. And that's why it's critical. Yes, they are the menorah. They are the olive oil. You're building a Beis HaMikdash for what purpose? In order to bring a menorah in, that it should illuminate with pure olive oil. These are the pure olive oil. This is Mashiach. These are the children. The beauty of this is that it's in each of us. Each of us has this oil. This is Chanukah. The celebration. Now, before Chanukah, you could say this message is also true. Every day they lit the menorah, they lit it with pure olive oil. But you often have to see the eclipse of the sun to appreciate the sun. As long as the oil wasn't defiled, we don't yet know the value. You could say, okay, beautiful. But here you see Chanukah. No, we do not light the menorah unless we have the pure olive oil. Till now you could say, well, we don't know how it would be if they didn't have the oil. They always had oil. Now they didn't have oil. It's a miracle number. So comes the miracle of Chanukah. They found the oil. We'll get to the miracle in a moment. First I want to just finish the point. So Chanukah teaches us the value, the importance. This is why Chanukah is such emphasis on children. Chanukah comes from the word dedication, to Chanukah's HaMizbeach, Chanukah's HaMikdash, which means to rededicate the altar, to rededicate the Beis HaMikdash, to rededicate the menorah that was defiled. That's the meaning of Chanukah. Chanukah also means education, chinuch, to educate the children, the child within each of us, in the purity. And always to remember that is the real you. The core you is your Shemen Zayizach. Your Pach HaShemen, your crucible within you. Now let's continue. Then comes the problem, okay, fine. We will honor and we will do whatever it takes to make sure that children are preserved, their purity is preserved. But let's be honest. The day will come hopefully later than earlier, where they will lose their innocence, where they will enter into the world, where they will learn about what a lie is, and what duplicity is, and what a duality is, and what all the different difficult challenges is, and crimes of humanity against humanity, and how people can behave toward one another. They will ultimately see this. Not only that, unfortunately, some will also begin to taste of it. Hopefully they won't. Then what happens? Okay, so you've delayed the inevitable. No. First of all, you have not delayed the inevitable. You've given them, you've cultivated and nourished that voice in them. So the day comes when they will actually enter the world. They will have been armed. Armies train soldiers 99% of the time is training. For that one possibility, which doesn't always happen, they'll go to war. This training, do not see it as some type of waste, because they're anyway going to be thrown into the war zone. They come in armed with a standard. So number one. Number two, and this is where the story of Chanukah becomes even more exciting. You could say more impactful. That even when they're defiled, even when you have thrown into a world where there's been a contamination, you made a mistake, it's been made to you, someone hurt you, you're involved deliberately, undeliberately, whatever the reasons are you damaged goods? Chanukah is a statement, you're not damaged goods. You have to search, and if you search, you will miraculously find the crucible. That's the story. It's not just what happened back then, 2,300 years ago, that they found it. That means it's findable. It's always there. The spark is never extinguished. The fact that it's now encased and trapped and locked, yes, that's a reality. It's not its natural state. So Chanukah tells us, remember, dig deep enough, and you'll find the flask of oil. You'll find the purity that once existed. Not only in the past, because that child is still inside of you, that innocence is still inside of you, waiting to be released. And you'll ask, how do we know? Well, first of all, if you believe in a soul and you understand its power and you believe in the divine presence in that sense, you know. But more importantly, you see it. Everybody has their enchanted moments. It may take on different shapes and forms. Some now manifest in very childish ways through games, some through entertainment, some through even sexuality. Everybody has that child in them that they're still looking for love. Everybody. Everybody still wants that father and mother to come and hug them and say, it'll be all right. Don't be afraid. We may play tough. We may seem adults. CEOs, chairmen, go to events, have honors, like the top of the world. But at the end of the day, we're all human beings. Unfortunately, I recently went to visit a person who's top of the world. He ran a company, 2,000 employees. He's now in a hospital, God forbid. He tells me, so fragile. I thought I was on top of the world. We're all fragile. We shouldn't be tested, but we all will be thrown into a world where there will be a challenge to our olive oil. Remember, and I told this to him in the hospital, I said to him, well, you thought your power lies in your leadership and you're running a company. Your power lies because your soul is pure, not because you're running a great company. And that soul is pure right now while you're here. Unfortunately, this world is very seductive, and we give credence and power to things that don't really have permanent power. It's your olive oil that is always intact, and there's always ways to express it. It's difficult to speak to a group of people and say what it is inside of you, but I guarantee you, look, ask some friends, and you'll find that part of your child in you that has not been defiled. But it may just be a small flask. And it may take time to find. And it may need a miracle. But it's all doable and possible. And number two, not only can you find that part, you can bring it alive and ignite and kindle a menorah that will burn 8 days. That is even more powerful. You could say, okay, fine. That little child is still in me. I understand I need the nurturing somewhere locked up. But now I'm in a different place. No. this can be reignited and become a lit light menorah, and that is Chanukah as well. Not just the discovery of this essential core inside of us. And 8 days, why 8 days? 8 days, you can say, okay, 8 days, because that's how long it took them to go travel to find oil, wherever oil was made outside of Israel, etc. 8 days, as the Rajba says, number 8. That's significance. It's 7 plus 1. 7 is the cycle of time, the cosmic cycle of life, the 7 emotions, 7 days of the week, 7 years of the sabbatical. Chesed, Gvura, Teferes, Netzach, Chod, Yesod, Malchus. The 7 emotions of our emotional spectrum. Shabbat is the 7th. 8, he says, Shemer Sehekef. It surrounds the structure. It protects it. It protects the structure. So 8, like the bris, Lamnatzeach al Ashminis, 8 has a power of transcendence. So the menorah itself has 7 branches. Chanukah we light 8. Halachically, one of the reasons is because to distinguish our menorah from the menorah of the temple. But it's interesting. We're commemorating the rekindling, the rededication of the menorah's temple, the temple's menorah, and we add 8, an 8th, because Chanukah has a message that the temple's menorah does not have. The temple's menorah says we have the power to kindle and light when things are going well. But once there's been a defilement, once there's been a contamination, and once you've been hurt or been abused or in some way been inhibited, and let's say not just once, it's become a repeat, become a routine, who knows what you could do then? Now you need the 8th. You need transcendent light. Not just enough, the regular olive oil, you need an olive oil that's discovered in the darkness, the transformation of the darkness to light, that's number 8. And it goes not just for a week, the cycle from Sunday to Saturday, but it goes 1 extra day to demonstrate that it goes beyond time, beyond structure. Because that's the power necessary. It's not just you're returning to the child when you find the oil and you light it. You're now transforming something. So there's an achievement. That though there was a defilement, though there was a darkness, you've learned to transform it. You've learned to discover that purity. For a child to be pure, my kamashmala, as they say. What's the chiddush? What's the innovation? The child is born that way. But for an adult to discover that purity and to kindle 8 days flames, that requires a big achievement. Because now you could say, you know what? I'm damaged goods. I've been hurt. I'm no longer that child. This is number 8. So it's 8 days of Chanukah. And that's, my friends, the tremendous lesson that Chanukah provides us. The ability to access that core part of ourselves. And to bring it alive, ignite it, that it should illuminate for 8 days and beyond. Because remember, after the 8 days, it didn't stop. After the 8 days, now they can burn, they can light the menorah with the olive oil that was pressed. They don't need a special miracle, a special effort. Which is interesting as well. Which means not only do we have transcendence, but you can go back to regular life and live in a transcendent way. Infused Chanukah, in other words, he reignited that spark, and now you can live your life combining the child and the adult within you. That's the power of the story. So that's the power, that after Chanukah you're able to go back to your regular life and continue lighting the menorah. It may not require that same intensity as you needed to jumpstart it. So this is an unbelievable lesson when you think about it. It's a lesson of hope, but it's a lesson also what we're capable of doing. The Ramban says something fascinating. Nachmanides. On the chapter about Loishchas Haneres, the menorah, as we know, stood out of all the vessels in the temple. The menorah was special. You see, the chapter about the tzava lighting the menorah with the pure olive oil is a separate chapter from the other vessels. In Bahaloska, we talk about Aaron, the high priest, lighting the menorah, again as a unique standalone chapter about the menorah. As a matter of fact, it's considered to be the consolation after Aaron saw that the Nasim, which we say in Chanukah every day, because it was the dedication of the temple, so we repeat and we tell the story of how the Nasim, the leaders of all the tribes, came and dedicated the the temple, that's a Parsha Nosei, the beginning of the book of Numbers, second chapter. So Aaron, the high priest, comes and says, why am I left out? I want to also be part of dedicating the temple. So God tells Moses to tell Aaron, yours is greater, your lot, your merit is greater than theirs. Why? Because you're going to light the menorah. Until the flames rise on their own, as I've discussed in the past. So there's a Ramban says on this verse, he says, unfortunately these flames have been extinguished when the temple was destroyed. The menorah is no longer lit. However, the flames of Chanukah, even though they came from darkness, from a decree after a defilement, these flames will never be extinguished. And we see through history, thousands of years have passed, and we light the Chanukah menorah year after year after year. There are amazing stories during the Holocaust how Jews went to try to find a little oil at the risk and peril of their own lives. Chanukah's flames do not get extinguished. Why? Because there's the power of eight, there's the power of transformation. You can extinguish something that is pure, but has been untested. But Chanukah shows you that you can find purity even in the impure. And you can transform it and illuminate for 8 days. The power of eight, transcendence. That ain't a b'teil leil. Like there's a law, halachic law, which is also a law and constitutional law. A contract that has been challenged and been upheld and ratified can no longer be challenged. The idea of an appeal. So you appeals court, one court, two, but at some point it gets to the Supreme Court. At some point you can't continue appealing, or in the double will be no end to this. So the challenge to this contract makes it stronger. Which psychologically is the idea that once you've been challenged and you've withstood the challenge, once there's been a betrayal and you've been able to withstand that, then you're far stronger. That which doesn't kill me makes me stronger. An example is in our own bodies. They say older people have less colds because they've already become immune. You never have twice the same cold. Common cold is a bacterial infection or viral, and it's based on something that once you've had it, you become immune to it. So you become stronger through that which has challenged you, through the disease. Same thing, same idea here. Ein b'teil leil. That causes invincibility. That not only you're able to find that purity, not only can you light it, but you now turn it into something that is eternal. It becomes a force for good that can never again, ever be challenged. And that is the final component of Chanukah. The question now, however, is how? I'm stuck in my place. I feel dark. I feel my light has been trapped. I haven't seen my own light for who knows how many years. It's sad times. Sometimes I see glimpses of it. But it could be for years. People have told me this. You want to cry. My light is gone. The light has gone out. What was it, the Motel 8? We'll keep the lights on for you. My light has gone out. The flame is no longer there. Power, passion. Very sad. Well, we have Chanukah. We withstood it all. There's no such thing. You may not feel that it's still there, like a pilot's flame. You may feel it's completely concealed, completely extinguished. It's not true. It's not true. Nobody can convince you otherwise if you feel that way. But I'm here to state that it's absolutely not true. So number one, you have to feel that confidence and know. So Chanukah, if nothing else, stand by the menorah and look at the flames and say, 2,300 years ago this miracle happened. I'm standing here lighting a menorah and I'm saying it's not possible. Who would have written such a script? If they had asked you 2,300 years ago, you would say, for sure it's never going to continue. So number one, your pessimism and your negativity is not a positive here. As he says in Tanya, if it's a demoralizing voices that make you feel horrible about yourself, atzvus, depressed, are always coming from the negative side, because they don't motivate you. They're just there to destroy you. They're just to annihilate you, to make you feel like a shmata, like a doorstep, like a doormat. So you must know that, and that's why we have every year a Chanukah to remind us. You have that oil in you. It may take effort to find and look and dig and find, but it's there. Find friends and let them help you look for it. Do not succumb to your own negativity, because then you yourself are writing the hopeless script. You're saying, no, it's impossible. Don't ever say that. You may feel it, and I'm not saying silence yourself, but you have to fight it. You have to fight it. That's the whole point of Chanukah. Fight and find that olive oil. And let others help you find it. How do we do that? By doing activities that get that flame going. And here's where Thanksgiving gives us a lesson, which actually comes from Chanukah. There are those that have already written about the connection. Obviously, this is a rare occasion where Thanksgiving comes out the night of Chanukah. Tonight is the first night of Chanukah. Tomorrow night is Thanksgiving. And many have written about it. I just want to make 2 points in regard to what we want to say. You don't need more commentary. So much commentary has been written. I think the Times had an excellent piece. How the source of Thanksgiving is what? The pilgrims came to Plymouth Rock. And they acknowledged and thanked God for the harvest. Thank God for their blessings. This is the essence of it. Take God out of the picture, then maybe we are damaged goods. Thanksgiving says you want to wake up the spark? Thank someone for it. Thank God every morning. Modani, thank you. Modani means thanksgiving. Modani, I thank you for returning my soul to me. The shamash and the soul you're giving me is pure. So Thanksgiving is saying, don't just think about me and what happened to me. Realize it's coming from a divine hand. That divine hand gives you power. Critical components. Critical. So Thanksgiving is essentially what Chanukah is based on. The idea of recognizing that purity inside of you and inside others, and acknowledge and thanking for it. Chanukah we say Hallel. Some say we say Hallel, some say we don't. With different opinions. But the ideas of thanking, we say Al Hanisim, we say Haneres Halolo, Al Hanisim, Al Shuas, we say on all the different miracles and salvations and happenings that took place. Besides being humble and truthful, of thanking that those who deserve thanks, in this case God for helping us, it also it lifts you up to that place. Because you realize that if I'm connected to God, how could any human contamination destroy me? How could anything defile me? I could be defiled, but there's a part of me that can never be, because it's part of God. It's like saying God gets defiled. That's impossible. Now, if you write your own script and say, I disconnect from anything from God, I'm a self-made man, then you are basically vulnerable to the elements. Whatever will attack, will attack. You tie yourself something above, you don't fall below. So Thanksgiving comes right into the message, a perfect message. So that's one thing we need to do. We need to make it a habit every day to thank God for our blessings, to thank God for our purity. Just being cognizant of that, saying thank you, makes a difference. Someone that stops saying thank you and ignores the gifts that they're given, they start taking for granted and they start forgetting that those gifts are there. They think, you have a gift. Every morning you're born, you're breathing, your heart is beating, your mind is working, your soul is pure because God wants you here. That's a vote of confidence. The decent thing is to acknowledge it and say, I am not a shmata, because God doesn't create junk. I'm not a piece of junk. I am a pure olive oil. And my obligation is to find it. If God gave me another day, how could I not find that olive oil in me? How can I get caught up in all kinds of things that are distracting? Number two, do things that ignite your menorah. How do you ignite a menorah? So in a menorah, you light the flame. How do you do it in psychological terms? In psychological terms, you ignite another person. Ner Hashem Nishmas Adam. The soul of a human being is the flame of God. Ner mitzvah Torah. Torah and mitzvahs are compared to flames and lights. Study Torah for yourself. Do a mitzvah. and you're igniting the flame within you. Another aspect, help inspire another person. So besides number one, the confidence that the crucible, the flask of oil is within you, because you're divinely you're acknowledging and accepting that gift you were given. Do things that fan the flames. A pile of flame can be alive, but you need to fan it. How do you fan it? A mitzvah. Study Torah. Give charity. These are things that fan your flames. Act that way. Act and know that while you're acting, you're not just doing a nice deed. You're actually fanning the flame of your innocent, pure olive oil of your child. And then influence others in the same regard. In the same way. Inspire someone. Teach a class. Participate in a class. Anything that will help ignite that flame. No one has any excuse. These are the ways to do it. You don't need any magic tricks. You do it with this in mind, it will come back to give you great many, many blessings. So we're here together on this first night of Chanukah. The lesson that I'm sharing, of course, is all of Chanukah. It's also a lesson for all year round, frankly. But it's Chanukah that gives us, that contains, that offers us this gift. The gift of knowing that you are essentially a pure, real, pure soul. The gift of knowing that you can ignite that, you can fan those flames. You can change the world by this type of acceptance, this type of belief, and influence others. Like an interesting thing with a flame, as many flames as you light, your original flame does not get diminished. There's nothing in the material world that works that way. You give someone part of your food, you have less. Someone part of your money, you have less. Part of your possessions, you have less. Here is a flame. You can light a flame and another flame and another flame, ad infinitum. All from the original flame. And not only does it not get diminished, it gets stronger. Because the flame now has given birth to many other flames. And when they come together, what happens when flames come together? They don't consume each other. They join. You can't even distinguish. Just like knowledge, just like inspiration. So we, my friends, are walking menorahs. Chanukah, we are waiting to become ignited. You have what it takes in you. Now the time has come to do something with it. And the lesson of Chanukah, my Chanukah, what is Chanukah? My Chanukah is that the pure olive oil gets defiled. Story of life. And then they miraculously find it, and it burns for 8 days. Story of life as well. This is the story of our lives. What better lesson? What more relevant lesson is there in all of this? A lesson that can infuse us with that hope and confidence. An actual game plan. An actual game plan. As always, if we can be of any help to you, in the Meaningful Life Center, we're there for you. We will resume this class on location next week, which will be the last night of Chanukah. We'll also light the Manura. Chanukah is a special time. It's a time not just to get together with family, of course, that's beautiful, but also share these words with family. Infusing your children that confidence. Every night, not just of Chanukah, tell them they are menorahs, they are a pure olive oil, unique, indispensable. Find ways to express it. Imagine if each of us just took that attitude and actualized it, how this world would be a better place. So everyone have Chag Sameach, a happy Thanksgiving. May this Chanukah help everybody find that inner light within us and take that light to actually illuminate even the darkest moments. We shouldn't know of any dark moments, but if we do, we have this power to transform, the power to illuminate, the power to take that flask and fan those flames into becoming a real force of change. Happy Chanukah, everybody. It's an honor sharing a few words, and it's an honor in general to be connected to your life. Thank you for listening. Be well and freilich and happy Chanukah to all.